All right, folks, I'm back chatting with my friend Barbara Osgood again, this time on a little bit of a different topic. Uh, on one of our online discussions, uh, focused on solo aging, several people said that they were using a check-in app called Snug Safety. And Barbara, who I know well, was one of those folks. So I figured I would check in with Barbara and learn more about this app and how you use it and what benefits you see with it. So, Barbara, thanks again for joining me. Let's first kind of dive into Snug Safety, which folks you can learn about at snugsafe.com. But tell us first off how you found out about this and what is the primary function that you get out of using this app?
Well, as you know, Steve, I'm a solo ager, so I do look for ways to take care of myself. Several years ago, I was fortunate enough to have an appendectomy at the Virginia Hospital Center, and they sent me home with one of those things that hangs around your neck and told me I needed to wear it for a month. And if I really liked it, I could keep it. Well, I hated it. I think partly because I'm a dog person and I was constantly moving and bending over, and this thing was hanging around my neck. I just thought it was a pain. So I just went on the internet and started looking for things that would be better than that for me. And I arrived at Snug Safety. I liked the write ups, it had some good recommendations, and it sounded like something that I could manage very nicely and would take care of me. So I signed up for it, and I have been very enthusiastic about it ever since.
Great. Now, for some folks are listening to this, but for those that are viewing, I've got the website snugsafe.com up, and the first off, it says that it's a free app. Now, my question for you is: it really free, or do you or have you upgraded your subscription?
Yes, I started out, there are two versions, the free version
Okay.
and what they call the dispatch plan. And I started out with the free version, and then they, at one point in time, they had a special offer because the dispatch plan is a monthly charge, or you can pay it for it annually. I decided to upgrade and go to the dispatch plan. A good friend of mine is in the free plan, and
Mhm.
I'm his contact. And I
Okay.
know that works really well because he's always forgetting to check in when he's supposed to check in. And then I get a message from Snug Safety telling me that he hasn't checked in. And the way the free plan works, it would be up to me or any of his other contacts to check on him and make sure he's okay. When
Okay.
you get the dispatch plan, you would get some additional phone calls from Snug Safety. It's just a little bit uh, more attention, I guess, more focus. But the free
Yeah.
plan worked very well for me for quite a while, and I know it works for my friend.
Yeah, so and I pull on the website here, it says the free plan ideal for independent people with strong local support network. You get one daily check-in, push and text message reminders, and text missed call-in alerts. But then for the dispatch plan, you get up to three daily check-ins. You get the push and text, phone call, false alarm prevention, phone call miss alerts, and phone call wellness check dispatch. So um,
And
I like what you just go ahead.
I just have to tell you that I have actually tested that a couple of times because I'm pretty good about checking in. My You set your own check-in time. My check-in time is 8:30 in the morning. And a
Okay.
couple of times I something has happened, and and I've forgotten to check in, and someone calls me and make sure that I'm okay. Ask me how I'm doing. Am I, do I have any problems? And of course, then I have to confess that I missed my check in. And there was a time just recently when they changed the look of the app. And that had me all bent out of shape because I wasn't sure whether I was getting a false app or something like that. So I called their customer service And someone called me right back to explain that this was a change and they were sorry I hadn't gotten the information. So I actually have had a chance to check it a couple of times and it's worked. So
Cool. Now, what I liked what you just shared with me is that you are not only utilizing this for yourself, but you're also on somebody else's, you're somebody else's check-in buddy. Um, well, let's first off, I'll get back to your friend on the free plan, but so basically you wake up in the morning and by 8:30 you open up the app and just say, I'm okay.
I tap. It used to be a green dot. Now it's a green bar. You
Okay.
just tap the bar.
And then that's good. And then
Mhm.
who, who does that notify that you're okay? Does it go to
I
your
get a
friend
text message back from them saying
from
thank you for
Snug
checking
Safe?
in. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. But in the case of your friend on the free plan,
Yes.
um that he has you as his check-in buddy. Is that
Yes.
correct?
As one of them.
O-
I think he has others, but I'm the main one.
Okay. And so now this is you on this be well, so what does that look like in terms of do you know what time he's supposed to check in and when do you get notifications?
I get a text message telling me that he has not checked in. It will say, Steve has not checked in today. You need to check on him. And I mean, this part is kind of funny, I guess, because I know that he sleeps at very odd hours and everything else. So he's much more casual about this. And I always wait just a little while before. I don't panic when I get that message. I wait a little
Okay.
while. And usually an hour or so later, I will get another text message that says, Steve has checked in today. We will check in with him tomorrow. So
Okay.
there's a follow up.
Um so that's pretty cool. So the free plan, as they said, folks that have a support network. So this might be ideal for somebody listening to this that has an adult daughter who's not nearby. She's in California or something like that. And this is an easy way to check in where you don't have to call somebody up and make small talk just for the heck of doing it.
Right. Right.
Okay. Great, great. And then, okay, and then you're on the dispatch plan, which sounds great because you're not you might have that friend network, but you're not relying on them to be the responsible party if something happens to you.
Right. They're not people I might be in touch with every day or something like that. So it just works out better for me to have the dispatch plan.
And then have you had any well how long have you been using this about?
Oh, I think maybe 4 years, something like that.
Wow. Okay. And
There's a little funny story that people might enjoy. Steve, the person who the person for whom I am the backup.
yeah.
Um, Early on, when we were both putting our heads together and trying to figure out what we needed to do, because he also is a solo ager, although not as old as I am. And we thought, well, we could just call each other every day. And that lasted about a month.
Huh.
Even though we're good friends, calling each other every day in a mandatory sense just did not
Hmm.
work out. And then we discovered Snug Safety, which does the same thing, only automatically.
That's great. Now, I guess, one of the things that were okay, so you've had this 4 years. Uh have you or Steve had an incident in this time since you've been using it where it's like, oh man, the reason I didn't call to check in is because I fell or something like that. Anything like that happen yet?
No, I haven't had it. The main thing is a few times, I would say in all of that time, maybe 3 or 4 times, I have not called in by 8:30 and they
Okay.
contact me, but it's only because I forgot to call or forgot to tap on my button. So
Now, just I, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm just going to simply ask you the question, like, how does it make you feel to have this system? What are the feelings that this gives you?
Oh, I think it's wonderful because I really do worry at this point in time, um, since I am alone and over time, friends are moving away and dying, and there aren't that many people left around who are in the immediate vicinity who look after me.
Hmm.
So, Snug Safety looks after me. And I know that if I don't check in, they will call somebody. And I think we didn't call attention to that, Steve, but in the dispatch plan, they will call, if they can't get any of my contacts, they will call the police.
Okay. All right.
So
That's
that's
great.
another option.
Cool. Man, now let's go back to kind of the personal emergency response devices that sometimes they're like a watch or a pendant. It's this button that you press. A couple of things. Are you pretty are you pretty diligent about keeping your phone nearby at all times? Because I guess that would be one of the if you're comparing and contrasting two systems is where you might always have this thing around your neck or on your watch.
Yeah, yeah. I always keep my phone with me. That's not 100%, but as much as I possibly can. I also have an Apple Watch that a friend gave to me because one time I fainted on the kitchen floor, and she decided I needed an Apple Watch. I would say probably the most use the Apple Watch has been to me so far is to tell me when my dog is barking next to me and I am being exposed to a high level of noise. The watch tells me that.
Yeah, it's interesting the data that these things collect. But one of the benefits is that if you are relying on this system as a something that can help you if you were to fall or what have you, the benefit of the Apple Watch is you can make a phone call from
Yes,
the watch and
yes.
or receive a phone call too. Um, well, um, well, this is really very cool. In fact, I'm gonna reach out. I was blown away at how many people were on that online discussion that we had that use Snug Safe and snugsafe.com. And so maybe I will reach out to them and see if we can get a representative from that organization to come on and tell us a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes with the app.
I think that would be great. I think it's been a while since I've been doing that research. I think there are some other companies that do similar
Hmm.
things, but this is the one that seemed to me, well, it did what I wanted. I think everybody, I know some people really like the things that hang around their necks. I just didn't. I just didn't like it. I didn't like that format. It wasn't convenient for me.
Yeah,
So
no,
different things for different people, I'm sure.
yeah, absolutely. But I again, I was blown away at how many of our community members are using this app, and
Yes.
maybe we can help spread the word, and many more will use it. So, Barbara, anything that we haven't touched on related to this, or do you think we covered it all?
I think we've covered it. I just give it my party recommendation if other people want to try it out.
I love it, and it's free if you want to try it out. So
Yes.
that makes it best.
Yes.
Snugsafe.com. All righty, thanks.
Okay. See ya.
All right, folks, I'm really excited today to be talking with Barbara Osgood, who happens to be a member of the positive aging community. That's how I met Barbara. But I really find that she's led an extraordinary life, but also utilize some resources that I think her firsthand perspective could be valuable to many folks. So, Barbara, first off, thanks for joining me today and being willing to share your personal journey. And how about we start with just getting to know you a little bit better? Tell us briefly a little bit about your background, and career, passions, things like that.
Well, Steve, I'm 91 years old and I'm a member of a generation that is rapidly disappearing called the silent generation. We were children of the Great Depression and World War II. We were brought up to be seen and not heard, and that's why they call us the silent generation. Um, I was also a part of a generation of women who were brought up to be wives and mothers. And that I think shaped, well, I know, I don't think I know, it shaped a great deal of my early life. Um, I often joke about the fact that little girls my age, our Christmas gifts were often baking sets and miniature cleaning materials like miniature brooms and dustpans and of course bride dolls, because of course the whole goal was that you were going to be a bride in that beautiful dress. So that's the early background that almost all of my friends certainly experienced. When it was time to go to college, I ended up going to Cornell University because they had the College of Home Economics. And Cornell was overtly, I mean, they actually announced that they were training us to be educated wives and mothers. In those days, if you wanted to have a career, oh, you might have a career before you got married or something like that. But you could be a teacher, you could be a nurse, you could be a home economist, and that was pretty close to the whole selection. If you wanted to enter um, another occupation, like possibly be in broadcasting or something like that, what you did, you took your Cornell diploma and then you marched yourself off to the Catherine Gibbs School in New York City, which was a very exclusive secretarial school, so that you could add secretarial skills to your diploma, and that's how you would get an entry level job.
Now,
But
did you march yourself off to that school, or was
no,
what happened after Cornell?
I did not. I was very dutiful, and I was still a member of the silent generation, and then, which has changed considerably in my later years. But but I was married my senior year in college, and went off with my husband after I graduated, and I became an ardent full-time wife and mother for a long time. And I can't really say, I've often thought about this, what was it that really suddenly changed my perspective on life? But a couple of pretty serious things happened to me. My second child died at birth of severe birth defects. And shortly after that, my mother died at a very early age. She was only 54. And I think probably those two very traumatic events for me just got me thinking about life. And then, not long after that, a woman who lived not very far from me wrote a book called The Feminine Mystique. And any
I
women my age remember that book.
Well, I had the good fortune of interviewing Betty Friedan, and she actually lived in an assisted living community in Washington, D.C.,
Oh,
and she was an amazing woman.
and she wrote an amazing book. As you know, it was very, very influential. It basically was a book that said to women, look, you don't have to be a homemaker for the rest of your life. There should be other things open to you. Excuse me. So anyway, I think that was the thing that really influenced me. And at that point in time, my children were already in school, and so I was looking for other things to do. And I went back to college in New York City, which was near to where I lived, and I got a master's degree in family and consumer studies. And the chairman of the department asked me to stay on and teach there. So I taught there for 3 years. That was a real eye-opening experience for me because I spent 3 years working part-time in the projects of the South Bronx. And that was quite an awakening for a middle class white woman who had spent her life in the suburbs. I began to see how the rest of the world was living. So that was quite an experience. And after 3 years, the department chairman called me in and said, "Do you like college teaching?" And I said, "Oh, I love it." And she said, "Well, if you want to keep on teaching at the college level, you need a PhD. You need to go get a PhD." So she sent me off to get a PhD. She was a wonderful mentor. And so I went back. I went back to Cornell, which by this time had changed from home economics to human ecology and had a whole different outlook on things. And that's where I got my PhD. Originally, I studied housing sociology. I was so influenced by how people lived in the projects of the South Bronx, especially old people. It was very interesting when I was working in those projects. During the day, all you ever saw were minority people, mostly African Americans and Puerto Ricans in those days were living in those projects. But on a sunny day, when it was warm, all of the benches in the park would be occupied by old white people. And they were living in the projects too, probably the people who had been there originally and stayed. But they only came out on nice days. That's the only time you ever saw them. So I just looked around and I thought, for everybody concerned, there ought to be better ways to live. And that's why I started studying housing sociology. I studied social gerontology and city and regional planning. And
Man,
then by the time I had my PhD, my husband had divorced me and I was penniless and homeless and everything else. And I had to do something. And the chairman of the department at Cornell found a job for me in the Department of Agriculture. And that's how I ended up in the Department of Agriculture with the Soil Conservation Service.
what a great story. And okay, and I know there's a lot of probably additional layers to it, but let's jump let's fast forward a little bit. And so you had a great career, Department of Agriculture, educated, life has its twists and turns, and you I imagine that at some point I don't like to use the word retirement. I like to refer to it as graduation. You graduated from full-time employment, and tell me a little bit about that chapter of your life.
Well, I do have to say, because I'm so proud of it, that I was the first, when I started with the agency in USDA, I was one of the first professional women. It was an all male agency. And I went on to have a couple of different positions where I was the first woman to head a technical staff, and I was the first woman to manage the state agency in New Jersey. So those are a couple of things I'm proud of because I did sort of dent a glass ceiling. I can't say I really shattered it, but I kind of put a dent in it, and I'm
Uh,
proud
you
of
you
that.
you've seen a lot of change, and I'll tell you, when I had the the good fortune to interview Betty Friedan, one of the questions that I asked her is, I said, "Do you, when you wrote The Feminine Mystique, what is your perspective on women's position in society today?" And she said, in my wildest dreams, I never imagined the opportunity that would be given to women when I wrote that book, and that made me feel really good. And I know, because a lot of times pioneers, when you reflect back to those first days at USDA, I mean, um, can you imagine that we're in a workplace now where women are leading companies and departments and things like that?
It's a huge change, and women, young women that I speak to now who currently work in my old agency, can't believe that there was a time when there weren't any professional women in the agency. It's incredible for them to think about.
Hmm. No, and in education, I mean, it's I believe now women outnumber men in higher education.
They
But
do.
so you've seen a lot, Barbara. That's really good. But so let's talk about life after full-time employment. What does that look like for you over the years? I know you've written several books, of one of which I've got right here, Diary of a Cranky Old Feminist. I'll make sure to have links to all your books in the recording. But tell us a little bit about what life is like.
It's well, it's very good for a particular reason. Before I retired, actually, when I bought my first house, I had been moving around a lot with my job, but I finally settled down. At that's a little over 30 years ago, and the first thing I wanted was a dog. I wanted a dog. I need to back up just a bit and say that along the lines, I suffered from severe depression. I was hospitalized several times through those years for attempted suicide. I was quite sick at various times, and I was finally diagnosed as bipolar disorder. So anyway, I wanted a dog to keep me company and help me get through these depressions. And I found Lab Rescue, my organization, and I said, I'm still working. Can I adopt a dog? And the woman who is the president said, of course you can adopt a dog. She said, you just get an older dog that doesn't need to go out so often. And that's exactly what I did. And my first dog was a black lab, and I named him Moody, not because he was moody, but because he kept me from being moody. And adopting that first dog, I immediately joined the rescue and became very active in just about everything: rescuing, doing adoption days, going to the shelter and pulling dogs from the shelter, just about everything, because the rescue was new in those days. And before long, I had three dogs. and and I also started adopting senior dogs because I discovered very quickly that old dogs, more old dogs died in the shelter because people don't go to the shelter to adopt an old dog usually. They just go to get a puppy or a young dog. And so I decided that would be my goal in life, would be to adopt senior dogs,
I love
which I,
it. And you even wrote a book about it, 84 Paws, A Life with Old Labs.
yes.
And now, and since I'm bringing up the fact that you've written quite a few books, actually, um, is that one of your uh, therapeutic activities, or what role does writing play in your life?
Well, of course, I had done a lot of writing through school and during work. I had to write a lot of proposals and speeches and all kinds of things. So I had done a lot of professional writing. I'd never done any creative writing. But after I retired, I really wanted to write about my dogs. So I took the creative writing course that Fairfax County offers in their adult education. And I actually took the same course three times. And the person who taught the course hated my writing. I never did get an A from her. But anyway, I just kept on doing it. And I finally wrote 84 Paws. And dog people, a lot of dog people just love it. I've sold a lot of copies with the proceeds going to my rescue, which is nice for me. It helps me to make a contribution. So, and then I discovered doing that, I love writing. Um, Not fiction. I'm not a fiction writer. I just love writing what I feel and what I think and the experiences that I've had.
I love it.
And I sort of urge people to go ahead and do that. I'm self-published. I don't worry about satisfying an editor or publishing company. I just write what I want to write, and enough people like it that I can sell some copies.
This is great. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, many of the people. I like what you've shared, because one of the topics of discussion that we talk about on our platform is finding purpose. And you've clearly found purpose in animals and rescue and writing in a lot of different areas. but I believe our paths crossed because you joined some of our online discussions, perhaps some of the ones related to solo aging in, and we've had conversations over the years about sort of coordinating support services. And I guess first off, let me ask you, like, how do you view sort of the management of your life now and in the future? Like, what is the perspective that you have on that?
Well, I am definitely a solo ager. My children are in New York and Massachusetts, so they're not nearby. And unfortunately, when you get to be my age, many of your close friends have gone or have moved away. And so I know a lot of people, but I don't have many really, really close friends who look after me. So I have to think about managing my own life and my own affairs pretty much for myself until I get to the point where I'm not able to do that. Hopefully that won't happen. But um, I I am concerned about well, started out being concerned about my dogs.
Mhm.
And I did a lot of work on making sure that they would be cared for if something happened to me and they wouldn't go to the shelter and all sorts of other things. And I leave a notebook full of instructions as to how they're to be cared for and all. And I did all of that work. And then I thought, but I haven't done that for myself. And so then I started doing it for myself. And I have tried pretty much to make some arrangements so that I will have what I need, and I have what I need now to be able to take care of myself. I'm very lucky, I have to say, Steve. I guess I'm lucky. I spent the first 7 years of my life pretty much alone. That was wartime, and my parents were really busy, and we lived out in the country. There weren't any other children. So I learned to, and I learned to entertain myself, to amuse myself, and to take care of myself. So now that I'm alone, I don't ever feel lonely. There's enough going on, and I can make enough going on so that I don't ever feel lonely.
That's a great perspective, and very important and very difficult for a lot of people. I talk to a lot of folks that um, it's hard for them to be alone, and so you sort of understand um, what's important and how to occupy your time and live with purpose. So, um, one
And
of
I
the
don't, and
things,
I'm not, I have to say, I'm not living alone. I'm sitting here right now with two large dogs
yeah,
lying on the floor next to me. So I'm not really alone. They're not very good conversationalists, but other than that, they're good company.
yeah, but they depend on us, and there's something about um having something, whether it be an animal, a plant, anything that requires our care and support. There's something meaningful about that. Well, like I think one of our first conversations, you were really starting to think about household tasks and chores that at one point you enjoyed doing, but you had sort of found a few that were not only a little more work than you wanted to do, but also potentially dangerous. Something as easy, what we might think is easy as screwing a light bulb into the ceiling is kind of finding support in that area. And I had introduced you to the Shepherd Center, a group of volunteers that are just trying to help people out and pull weeds and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But maybe talk a little bit about what was going through your mind during that time, and then I think that you started working with Shepherd Center.
I did. And I think you and I had a conversation about that originally because I was in a state of mind where I didn't want to have to ask people to help me. That was really, really hard for me to do. But I finally got to the point, and you helped me convince me of that, that it was okay to ask for help. And once I got over that hurdle, the Shepherd Center has been wonderful. I haven't asked them for a lot, but um, my dentist is in Falls Church, which is a fairly long drive for me. And although I'm still allowed to drive, my doctor told me that I should not drive on the Beltway or 66 where there is a lot of heavy traffic. So getting to my dentist was a little bit of a problem. And I contacted the Shepherd Center. They have a system where you let them know what you need and they match somebody up for you. And I've had two people now who have driven me to the dentist, just absolutely delightful people. It's a fairly long trip, so we've had a wonderful conversation coming and going, and that it's been a real pleasure. I call that my social event of the day, having something like that, which is really nice. So that's been very helpful. And I also, um, again, I'm not supposed to be climbing ladders, even though I think I can. And I've had to give up on that and call Shepherd Center, and they sent a very nice man and his wife actually came and changed the bulb in my kitchen ceiling. So, and they do a lot of other things too. I just haven't asked them to do that much, but um, as I say, it's a nice experience for me, and it would be for any solo ager really, because it's not only having someone get the work done for you, but it's having a social event, someone who is happy to be doing it. These volunteers are people who obviously want to do this, and they're just delightful people to be with.
Yeah, and I remember when you first utilized them, and I was like, well, this is great. This is a solution. And you said, yeah, but I just it's really hard for me to accept the free help. And I remember saying to you, I said, well, Barbara, why don't you just make a donation? Um, but the last time we chatted, I'm great, folks. I am super excited to have one of my favorite people in holy cow. Samsung. Okay, sorry about that. I will cut that out of our recording there. A button hit. Okay. So the uh so I was really thrilled to learn that you may be getting more involved in with Shepherd Center, not just as utilizing the volunteers, but um, delivering some value to the community yourself.
During COVID, I was invited to talk about my book, 84 Paws. That was, of course, via Zoom, but it was nice. And and I sold quite a few books. I'll have to say I won't say his name, but one of the people who is active in Shepherd Center, when I had offered the books and sold the books, he bought 23 books because he has a big family and he bought one for everybody. So um, that was a nice support from him. I was delighted at that. He's somebody that I worked with for many years. So anyway, and now um, the woman who drove me to the dentist decided that I would be an interesting person to speak to their senior group at Northern Virginia Community College. And she recommended me to the person who arranges speakers. So
Um,
I'm going to be speaking to that group.
this is wonderful. So number one, I'm glad that you're a part of that community of neighbors helping neighbors and support. As we kind of begin to wrap things up for this conversation, but I hope to have several more with you. Um, Tell me kind of what's on your mind as a self-proclaimed solo ager, thinking about the future. Are there things that you're concerned about? Um, have you thought about your future plans? What's on your mind in that regard? Because I think it would be helpful to others that might be in the same space.
Well, as someone who wants to continue being a solo ager, I'm thinking about what changes I need to make to my house. I live in a three-level townhouse, and eventually I won't be able to climb those three levels. So I'm thinking about what I need to do to make arrangements to stay and live on one level. And that's going to be
And
an expense too. So that's the other thing that I need to think about.
well, and I'm delighted that you're thinking about it now and not most people when they start thinking about it is when they're in the car coming home from the hospital because they've had a fall and they don't want to go to rehab outside of their home. So I'm glad that you're thinking about that in advance. Many people don't think about it. They just say, "Hey, I'm going to stay here forever," but they are not really thinking about what would happen if they had mobility problems. So that's great. Well, Barbara, this has been a great discussion. Is there anything that you haven't shared today that you think might be useful to others in the positive aging community?
I think trying to stay positive, that's probably the most important thing.
Absolutely. Well, I know your story will inspire others to differently and think positive, and I look forward to the next time that we chat.
I will too.